Hi everyone, today we're going to do a little more exploration of our new set of Kuretake paints here, this 48 pan set. And what I'm going to do is a sort of semi-abstract kind of interpretative, sort of loose kind of view of the moon with an owl through the trees with some falling snow and stars in the sky and whatever you care to put in your painting. And today I'm going to be working on some Hahnemühle bamboo paper, which is a mixed media paper. It's made from 90% bamboo fiber and 10% cotton rag. It's vegan, and I used it once before, not long ago, for this little playtime event. And I liked it. I think it's really good, and I'm thinking of getting a good supply of it. I happen to have a few sheets in my trousseau that is to say in my plan chest, came from somebody that gave them to me, I think. Anyway, so I'm getting towards the end of it. This is the label from Germany, Hahnemühle. I can get it here in France, but you can also get it from Amazon. So we're going to be using a small piece here. I think this is probably about 5, let me measure it, 5 or 6 inches tall. Sorry, put that around the right way. 6.5 by 10, that is, but I'm only going to use sort of like the centerpiece, like that, for this. So I'm going to do it in blues. The background is going to be in blues. So I've got here a number 11 round draw well brush. Any nylon, synthetic, good quality watercolor brush would do for this. You could use a flat if you want to, but you don't. It doesn't matter what you use, really. Any brush will do. Any deal will do. Thank you, Boris, and goodbye. Okay, so on this set here, we've got quite a few blues, and if you look here, we've got, I'm just looking for my doodah. When I say doodah, I mean colour chart, which I did earlier. These ones here are opaque, or at least semi-opaque, like gouache. So that means they've got quite a lot of white in them. So if you want an opaque blue for the sky, for example, that's quite nice. And then we go into colours which are a little bit more like ordinary watercolour. So we have a turquoise, dark turquoise here, cerulean, cobalt, ultramarine, Prussian, indigo, and blue-grey. And you can see how important it is that you do have a colour chart that you've made. They give you this, so that's easy enough. In fact, they give you 2, one on the inside of the box. And you just have to put a little dab of paint on there so that you know what you're looking at, because basically, from where I'm standing, these all look basically the same, kind of dark colours, but they're not necessarily. This is cerulean, and if you were to use that lightly, that'd be perfectly fine for the sky. It certainly wouldn't come out looking like that. Of course, the whole point of watercolour is that you use a lot of water with whatever you have in your pan or your tube, so you can dilute it down as weakly or as little as you like. So I thought, well, I don't know really. I think probably what I'll do is with this one, I just started to paint and I just kind of added to it all the other colours. So I began, and I'm going to do the same here. I began with cerulean because I'm still, this is still exploring the paints and seeing how they work, because they are a bit different from the traditional watercolour that I used to use. And this method of painting from a pan like this is not my usual method, but I know that it's very popular with people out there who have been following other artists. I know it's quite a popular method to paint from the pan, so I'm not going to try to force everyone to do it the way I do it. We'll have a go at doing it like that. So I'm just basically picking up these different colours of blue along here and seeing what we've got. I sort of put a fairly light blue around the outside, perhaps to start with, and then the idea being to darken it up as you go towards the middle. Really, one of the good things about this particular kind of paint, this Kuretake, as opposed to any other, is that it seems to be very well behaved when it comes to blending. And I don't know why it is exactly. Maybe it's because the particles of the different colours of paint are similar in size. I don't know. But anyway, you get fewer backruns and things with this paint. So I'm going to put a nice dark area in the middle, like that. And then I'm going to blot out the moon from back there. And I think that's probably dark enough. But what I did on the other one, having done that, I went and got some of the opaque blue, the pastel blue, and I just added that around the outside. I don't know why I did that, but the result I thought was quite nice. It sort of, I don't know. You don't have to do that. If you haven't got this set, don't worry about it. Just paint a big square of blue, rectangle of blue. And let's make sure that this centerpiece is nice and dark. Okay, that'll do. And then to blot out the centerpiece, you could have drawn around a circle, but what I'm going to do is sort of about a third of the way down and more or less in the middle, just going to come in with a paper towel and lift out some colour like that. And we'll call that the moon. Okay. So you just need to make a kind of circle thing like that and then just press down and you'll get, the paint will lift up. So that's that. Now we have to let that dry because the next step is going to be to draw some tree trunks and branches. So that has to dry. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so that's dry, and now we're going to start on the next step. I'm going to draw these tree trunks and branches in, and I'm going to use watercolor pencil. This is a Staedtler Karat Aquarelle, which is, this one is black. They come in other colors, but the one I have here is black. I use quite a lot of these, so I have a box of 6 here, new ones, but I'm just using up the little stubs of the old ones that I had first, because, you know, waste not, want not. And today I've stuck this rubbery thing on the end, which came off of an old biro, to give it a little bit more length so I can actually hold it properly in my hand. I was thinking about buying one of those pencil extenders, but then somebody suggested that, and I thought, that's a good idea. And then I couldn't find a pen to fit it, but I did find this piece of rubber. So that is going to work okay, I think. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm also going to use, in this next process, I'm going to use some of this P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, which I've mixed up in a little dish here so that I can use it for spattering the snow. And also I will be doing some spatter with the Kuretake Starry colours. So you can see I'm on a pretty hefty Kuretake binge at the moment. So let's get started. Right, so I'm going to use this pencil kind of sideways to just give me a wider line, and I'm going to grow some trees up through this blue background. Now, the cool thing about using watercolor pencil for this, obviously, is that once you've put it in place, you can then wet it and it will become darker. This particular one is particularly good at becoming dark, I have found. So we'll put some fairly noticeable ones in the foreground, and I'm going to do them sort of leaning in a little bit towards the moon, and then we're going to just drag a few spidery branches across the face of the moon like that. So a few biggish ones in the front, and then as they go further back, they get a little bit lighter. And we'll have a fairly strong one here. And I wanted to put a branch across the moon, and I'm going to put a little, very, very lightly, a little owl there. You could put all sorts of birds in there, and you could do them bigger if you want. If you do your moon bigger, you could do that. And so the idea is that the branches are all, and the trees are kind of leaning in a little bit to give a little bit of a sense of movement in this forest, making a kind of corridor or pathway through. And as you do them, you'll realise that that's what you're creating. And then in the middle, you'll just do them really quite lightly. And sort of try to space them a bit irregularly, avoiding that tendency we all have to make everything line up in a regimented fashion. And I probably want a couple in the distance here, so it's definitely best to use the pencil on its side. You do need a point, but you don't use the point. Okay, so maybe just fill that gap there a little bit. And then we could go ahead at this point and wet some of this, or you could leave it to the end, but if you want to, you can make them darken up, but just go over those lines. It's a technique I use quite a lot. It's quite nice for trees because, of course, trees have, generally speaking, what you might call irregular bark patterns, and by doing it like this quite lightly, you can simulate that. If you want, you can leave the ones in the background unwetted, so they fade away really well, but just a few of them, and you might want to make the ones here darker too. So this is a number 3 round. It's a small brush, makes it a little bit easier. And you don't have to go over the pencil exactly. You can sort of go outside the edges because it'll dry, and when it's dry, you won't notice that you didn't sort of, So some of the darks in the background there as well. Okie doke. You could put grass in too if you want. You could put some small things down the bottom. But the next thing we're going to do though is we shall do some spatter, which is always fun. So I need my trusty toothbrush if I can find it. There it is. And what I did on the other one was just wake up my toothbrush. And then I need to also similarly wake up the gold paint a little bit. Let's see if I can find a brush. Use a cheap brush to do this. So I put water on these earlier and I gave them a jolly good talking to, so they should be pretty much ready to roll. We'll see how it goes. And we will want white as well. You could put the white on first if you want, or you can put the gold on first. And let's see how this goes. It probably, if you don't like getting mucky, this is probably not something you want to do because you will get mucky. But so the idea is you might want to put a screen around it if you want to stop it from going over the edge. But you don't have to do that. I haven't done that. There we are. So we want quite a bit of gold. You might need to experiment with different toothbrushes because not all toothbrushes are the same. So that's that, and I think we might put a little bit of silver as well. And then the white. So we're going to spatter with the brush. You could do the gold and silver with a brush as well if you want, but you'll get bigger blobs. And the one that I did before, I managed to rub my hand over it. It's always the way. I'm pretty clumsy like that, so some of them sort of turned into birds, so that's something you could do on purpose if you wanted to. But otherwise, that's pretty much it. We are done. And I think you'll agree, that's quite a, what's the word? A sort of mystical sort of appearance we have there. So give it a try. And, oh, you could go in after you've done the spots and things and it's dry. You could go in and darken down some of the trees if you want to. I mean, you can play with this idea and come up with your own version of it. But yeah, Christmas card, eh? Another one, 2 in 2 days, and it's only August. What am I doing? Okay, I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.